it's also the element of how many of these kids who are going through this process they're just gay. They're just gay kids. I mean, whenever because the show has got quite big now, there are people who come up to me. I get quite a lot of gay men and gay women wanting to talk to me about this. And I remember talking to this gay lady, it makes me sound like I'm from the 1950s when I say that, but a few weeks ago, and we were talking about this, and she approached me and we were having a nice conversation, and she just looked at me and she went, "Thank God that I'm in my late 20s, because if this had been around when I was 12, I would have transitioned and I would have screamed the house down until, there was medical intervention, because that's how upset I was at the fact that I was gay, or I am gay."
I think this is the part of the story which people, particularly in, liberal metropolitan cities, find the hardest to accept. And certainly that's like the reaction that I've had to the work, like, it just can't be true, And clinicians themselves, they would get young people coming in and using like these vile homophobic slurs that, that we had at school in I think we're probably a similar age, the 80s and 90s. And hearing that, I thought we were done with that. I thought it just wasn't a thing anymore for people to think it's not okay to be gay, but it is. And it's not me saying that. Like, every clinician I spoke to said that so many of those young people were same-sex attracted, even those that spoke really favourably about the work at GIDS, and particularly the girls. And actually, when those clinicians who were gay themselves raised those concerns, they say they were accused of being too close to the work, that they were seeing something that wasn't there. And what they've turned around and says, look, they say, look at the data. Like, it's really rubbish. Like, we don't have much of it, but what we do have absolutely bears that out. So GIDS's data for every single young person that was referred to them in 2012, of the ones they have data for, which is the sort of the older ones, they didn't ask the very young kids, what is it? I think 90% of the girls identified as either same-sex attracted or bisexual, and 80% of the boys. And then in slightly more recent stats, those come down to about 70% and 60% respectively, but they're still incredibly high. So they're saying we weren't seeing something that wasn't there. And I've spoken to young people themselves. There's a case in the book, Harriet, who said, I was a lesbian, and it was so obvious. I went into my GIDS assessment and they talked about the first relationship that I'd had with a girl, and I felt really ashamed about it because she wouldn't talk to me in public. And I've never been attracted to a boy. And all that was ignored. So it's not... the data, the personal experiences, the experiences of the clinicians, it's there. And I have to stress that of the people I spoke to for the book, not all of whom are named or quoted, but collectively they've worked with thousands of young people directly, sitting in a room like we are now, face to face. It's just, I don't think it's credible to pretend that the overwhelming number of people who might be affected by this are gay, bisexual, or lesbian. I mean, and that's always been the case. So every study we have in this field is quite rubbish, but all of them highlighted that. And when Domenico De Celi opened GIDS back in '89, he always made that point, that of any group of kids, some would grow up to be trans, but there would be the minority. The majority wouldn't, and the majority of them would be gay. And somehow this gets lost over the years, even though it was in the clinical presentations, and even though their own data showed them that.